amazing how we're learning how this works. Got it? Yeah, good. Well, I just want to take this opportunity to welcome everybody to our Tuesday, January 11th, Middlesex County Library Board meeting. And I think everybody's seem to be doing well. So and everybody's fighting through this this next phase of this pandemic. So we'll proceed by just asking for a provision of disclosure of pecuniary interest or any general nature thereof. Thank you. So seeing none, we'll move to the minutes of December 7th, 2021 of our library board meeting. Any question or comments with those minutes? If not, then I looked at the minutes of the December 7th, 2021 meeting. The library board be approved as presented. Moved by Brad Richards, seconded by Ruth. Further comments or questions on those? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll go to item number 4 now, which is our visioning topic, 2021 library board, 2022 library board activities presented by Lindsay Brock. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to bring my presentation up on the screen and get it running here. Okay, everyone can see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so what I've put together is just a very brief overview of a few activities, projects that I think we should be working on for 2022. So the final year of this 4-year library board term, things that we've talked about, things that we've done in previous terms. So just a few goals to help structure our year. So the tasks that I've focusing on today are going to be board member evaluation. So Mary Gay brought this up at, I believe it was the November meeting. It was a topic that came up with at one of the OLS meetings that a number of library boards undertake this this process, doing kind of self-evaluation and evaluation as a board to just get kind of a baseline understanding of how the board is functioning and what opportunities for improvement or changes there are. So we wanted to talk about that. Creating a legacy document, again, that's something that we've done previously at the end of other board terms. So working towards what that document will look like for this board. And then also a strategic plan progress report. So that will be something that we would kind of attach to that legacy document, wrapping up the work done so far. Our current strategic plan will bridge between the two board terms, which is good, but it'll be important to have this kind of wrapped up document and progress report at the end of the year so that we can move ahead with work from that in 2023. So I just wanted to start off with a discussion or get your thoughts and feedback on this board member evaluation process. So how I see this working is very simple. I can just create like an online survey with a number of questions, and then each board member has the opportunity to answer, and it can be anonymous that way as well. And so what I've done is I've gone through evaluation documents from different libraries and kind of pulled out the questions that jumped out at me. And those are the ones that I've put on this screen. Just going to go through them. And then if you have thoughts, any that don't make sense or don't really speak to you, or any suggestions for other questions, we can have that discussion now, or you can follow up with me this week, and I can pull this together pretty quickly. So so how I see this structured is just, with these questions, you would choose agree, disagree, and then there would be a section for you to put some thoughts about how can we improve on the topic that this question presents, what sort of changes could we make. So these are some sample questions. So are agendas appropriate in length and topics? The Director of Library Services provides the board with accurate and up-to-date information in order to make sound and effective decisions. So would you agree, disagree, or what can be improved? Meeting discussions allow for diverse viewpoints. The board reaches a collective decision after appropriate discussions. And then some that are phrased more personally. So I use my individual abilities and skills to enhance the board's overall performance. I have a clear understanding of my role. So is there any kind of gray areas or things that anyone is unclear of, or things that could be made clearer for the next board? I support the library in a variety of ways. For example, attend events, promote services. Oops, click back. I understand the library's financial issues and implications. And finally, I'm aware of the program, services, and events of my library. So again, for each of these questions, every board member would say whether they agree or disagree with like evaluating themselves and their own experience with that question, and then also have the opportunity to say what could be improved along those lines. Does anyone have any thoughts or I know I'm kind of throwing this at you today, but whether there were any questions in your experience that are effective for this sort of evaluation, or anything that anyone wanted to chime in on for this slide?
Yeah, Lindsay, I've got one, and it's got to do with the agendas and appropriate length and times. I guess when I was thinking about filling this out and wanting to fill in, I had to be cognizant of the fact that we did reduce our number of meetings a year. So I think sometimes the meetings might seem a little longer, might go a little longer, but I think with the Zoom meetings, they're definitely quicker than in person because there's less dialogue back and forth. But when I look at that, I think we have to be aware that we're trying to we're not having a meeting just for the sake of having a meeting, and so that at least we've tried to actively reduce the number of meetings a year, but it still cover off everything we want to. So I think that's an important one to look at the comments on it, but I haven't found any meetings that be too long, and yet we're covering everything that comes up from month to month. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's also a really good point that you made about the virtual experience versus in person, because it has been a while since we've met in person. So the feedback, or how each of you might answer some of these questions might look different now versus 2 years ago, and hopefully we'll get back to that in-person experience and kind of that just that experience that I think we all valued and enjoyed, perhaps more than the virtual meeting experience. But that's a really good point. Yeah.
Okay, then is there any other questions for Lindsay this far? Then I don't see any hands up. Or
perfect. So I might I'll send these questions out in an email just to get everyone's kind of final feedback, and then like I said, I'll be able to pull this in like a survey format, pull it together quite quickly, and send that out to everyone to complete and then compile, and then we'll discuss at a future meeting, and see what sort of improvements and what direction this gives us. So that's great. So then the second task is that legacy document. Sorry, I'm just going to move everyone's faces around on my desk here on my screen. So all public library boards celebrate accomplishments and face challenges. Of course, we've faced lots of challenges over the past couple of years. And so a critical analysis of your term, this 4-year term, will serve as an important legacy for the next board. So it's important to have that reflection and get it down in writing, and work on what message you want to send to, it could be used both to the public but also to any new board members that come on board. So a legacy document may address or identify the library and its community partners. So it's a good orientation tool that way, kind of where the library sits in relation to other community partners and organizations. Major governance issues faced during the 4-year term, any challenges or opportunities for the new board, what should they be focusing on, information like that, and also wishes for the new board's success. So like I said, we have a couple documents to refer back to. So again, I'll work on structuring this and opportunity for you all to provide feedback and information that would go into this letter. And it's something that I think we'll put like a September date on it, have that final draft ready for September so that we're ready for the end of the year. So again, this will be work that we do throughout the year to create this legacy document. And then finally, that strategic plan progress report. So we've done periodic updates on our strategic plan. We talked a bit about it through the budget process, but I think at the end of this year, again, having kind of one document that's pulled together to attach with that legacy document, that letter to the next board. This will be an important piece of that. So things that will go into this document will be obviously focusing on our accomplishments, all of the goals and strategic actions that we've been working on over the last 4 years, which means things from this plan, our current strategic plan, as well as the previous plan. What's in progress? So what are we going to be working on in 2023? Opportunities and priorities for the next board term, and then any key issues that might relate to work that's in progress or any of the goals and projects that might come in that next 4-year term. So again, this is something that I'll be pulling together, and as I do other updates to you on our strategic plan work, but again, bringing this back in some sort of form for September along with that legacy document, and then creating that final draft of it at the end of December and into January 2023. So I'm just going to stop sharing. So that was just a quick overview of a few activities that I think will help structure the next year for us. But if anyone has any thoughts or comments about other work or any other elements that need to be included in those things, I'd be happy to talk about them.
So, okay, just so I understand the process, then you're going to send us out, and then we're going to have our comments on the original draft of what you're looking to have and what we wanted added or comments, and then you're going to send it. You're going to refine it and send it to each board for comments back. That's how the process is going to work. And we want to have that done by September. Yeah, ideally.
I
understand it then. Thank you. Is there any questions then with regard to not only the process, but how we're doing? Brad, go ahead.
Thanks, Jimmy. And kind of a question, but maybe a suggestion for a question back to the board members is something along the lines of how COVID has affected, the board and us as board members. Because it really is that this is a unique situation, and to do what we've done over the last 4 years and accomplish what we've got done in the last 4 years with COVID going on, that really changes the whole game. But I think it should be in the questions and the accomplishments as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point.
Thanks, Brad. Is there any other comments or anything else we would like to see added or as a group prior to getting our individual input? Okay, seeing none, then thanks, Lindsay. Appreciate that. And there's no other comments. We'll move on to our item number 5, which is action item. It's the Strathroy Library and Library Administration lease agreement. There's a report from Lindsay, Director of Library Services. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to refresh everyone's memory, as it has been over a year since we worked out the terms that went into these lease agreements with Strathroy Caradoc. So over the past year, the draft versions of this lease agreement have gone back and forth between the county and Strathroy Caradoc, so that we're at this point where we can move forward with our agreed upon agreement. So through this process, the county legal department, they created the lease agreements, and they use a standard document and standard terms. And then we kind of go through and modify aspects of each lease in order to accommodate any unique aspects of a certain facility or different terms that are requested by or that relate to that facility. So for example, the Strathroy lease, the leases before you, are very similar to the Ilderton lease that was confirmed in 2021. So we did that last year. One of the primary differences between Ilderton and Strathroy would be that Strathroy is a multi-use facility. So it has both the library and museum, Strathroy Caradoc. So that's one of those unique characteristics. So if you see differences that maybe pop out at you in the Strathroy lease versus Ilderton, that would be one of the main differences. But it is a standard document, standard terms that speak to things like cleaning and maintenance and who does what within the space. And so that's where the county's legal team is really working to standardize all of our leases moving forward as new ones expire. So these lease agreements before you reflect the terms that were agreed to in the memoranda of understanding that came about in December 2020. So if we think back to that document, it spoke to agreed upon lease rates. It spoke to how we were going to handle that shared space. So there are areas within the Strathroy Library that are shared between the library early on and museum Strathroy Caradoc. So, the entranceway, the family washroom, the new program space, those sorts of spaces are shared spaces. And that MOU also spoke to that reduced lease rate for early on space that we had discussions about back in 2020. So if you compare this agreement that's before you to the previous version, looking back to 2019, we were leasing 11,052 square feet. This included some shared space with the museum. And so all spaces were confirmed as we went through the renovation process, worked with the architect to get the numbers, make sure that everything was correct. And so now the current Strathroy lease that's in front of you shows we're leasing 10,083 square feet. So thinking about the renovation that we went through that resulted in that change of square footage, one of our goals was to maximize and improve that shared space between the library early on and Strathroy or Museum Strathroy Caradoc. And we really accomplished that with our new spaces. So that front early on space, it holds library collections as well. We have that shared family washroom that's available to anyone who uses the facility. And then we also have that shared programming room that, again, can be used by library early on or Museum Strathroy Caradoc for a variety of programs. Once we're doing that in-person programming again, hopefully not too far away. Another one of our goals through the renovation, and that is reflected in this lease, was that with early on, we really wanted to reduce the amount of space that we were leasing. And so that's why we moved from the facility down the street on Frank Street. That was where early on programming took place previously. We ended that lease, moved programming into the library. That was the end goal, so that we weren't, so that we were maximizing our space, not leasing kind of excess space that that wasn't needed. And as well, that's why we pursued that reduced lease rate for early on services with both Strathroy Caradoc and Middlesex Center to really maximize the funding that we receive for early on programming. So overall, these lease agreements reflect those goals and all of the work that we've done to negotiate the terms within the leases. And there is a recommendation before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about either of the lease agreements.
Okay, does anybody have any questions with respect to this lease agreement with Strathroy Caradoc? We pretty well beat it to death a couple of years ago to get it to where it is. So I think, it's there, and I've had some conversation with Bill with respect to that. So I'm pretty comfortable with it. So if we're seeing none, then we're looking for a motion that the lease agreements between the municipality of Strathroy Caradoc, the corporation of the county of Middlesex, and the Middlesex County Library Board be approved, and that the bylaws of authorizing the library board chair and CAO to sign the lease agreements on behalf of the library board be presented to the board for approval. Look for a motion. Moved by Mary Gay, seconded by Brad. Any further comments or questions with it? See, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next we're going to move on to item number 6, which is correspondence and information items. And I'll go through these. If you've got any questions, or any comments with it, anything you'd like to add to it, Lindsay, I'd appreciate knowing. Thank you. Next is our systems internet 2021 to 2022. Item 6B is systems circulation 2021 to 2020. 6C is virtual programming December 2021. And D6D is social media activity 2021. 6E is library activity report. Did you want to comment on that, Lindsay?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. So the report before you gives a bit of an update on our service level right now. So as I indicated, by mid-December, we did have all branches open, still at reduced hours, but we had opened all of the remaining 5 basic branches. So those are operating at 1 day a week of service right now. We had intended to increase to full service hours the week of January 17th, but we put that plan on hold, recognizing the current challenges of our situation right now. And so we'll revisit that timeline over the next couple of weeks to see when we can shift that goal. But looking forward to that. So right now, libraries, all of our branches are open for in-person service. We had been operating with capacity limits the entire time, basically at that 50% level, which is what we're required to operate at right now. And we're still encouraging short visits, also still offering people the option to have items mailed to them at home. If coming to a branch is not something that they want to do right now. So giving people those different options. I had a meeting with all of our supervisors yesterday. We meet every Monday to do a bit of an update and a roundtable. And my main purpose yesterday was just to make sure that we were on the right path and to get a sense of how everyone was feeling. And the consensus around that table is that the majority of staff are happier offering in-person service than they would be offering curbside pickup service, which is kind of what I anticipated, but it's interesting. Curbside is a lot of work, and I know that it doesn't meet every patron's expectations, which I think is really key to our staff. They want to deliver the service that people want and need. So they're comfortable where we're at right now with all of the health and safety policies and practices in place. There are some situations where we're modifying our service, not giving as much hands-on help with our computers, that sort of thing. Definitely maintaining distance and all of those practices. But staff are comfortable with our service level, and I know that patrons are happy with it as well. We're getting some from London who want to access their QR vaccination codes and things like that when they can't get in-person service in London right now. So things are good at our current service level, and we've had some challenges with staffing and had to close a few branches a little early or for one shift because of staffing shortages. But it's at a manageable level right now, and if school returns to in-person next week, then that'll help alleviate those pinch points as well. But overall we're doing well so far. So knock on wood. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. Other aspects of this report. So I talked about the OLA conference that's virtual. So I've talked to a few of you about registering. Let me know if anyone hasn't registered yet and wants some help with it, because it is a challenging website to navigate. But all staff will have the opportunity to participate in that virtual conference. So we're looking forward to that. Virtual programming. So right now, early on is all virtual right now. So in-person programs were canceled for 2 weeks, and we'll just see if that is extended or what the plan is as we move through this week. The library continues to offer some virtual programming online, so trivia nights, book clubs, special programs. We had been working towards a winter learning program, but based on our experience last winter with trying to run a virtual learning program while kids were also doing online school, it was not well attended. It was not well used. Parents, there's a lot of online fatigue. So I think we're revisiting our plans for that winter learning program and focusing more on what we're going to do for March break. So looking ahead to that, scaling our plans back for any programming over the next month or so for school-age children. But that 0 to 6 group will still have those opportunities through early on programming, and we still have some regular adult virtual programs running. Like I said, staff are busy printing off QR codes now that that's what everyone needs to access certain services and things. So the public's happy that they can still come in and use our computers. And last month, we were very busy hiring a lot of new staff. We have almost a brand new team at the Dorchester branch. And so Chris Harrington, who is taking over for Catherine there as the supervisor, is very busy training everyone and getting everyone set up and ready to serve patrons there. And then we also had some movement internally. So Laura Garner, she was the Thorndale branch assistant. She'll be moving into that full-time branch assistant position at Dorchester that we discussed last year. So really excited to have Laura on that Dorchester team. They need that consistency and that history. So lots of new staff to bring on board this month. Any questions about our service level or anything that I could answer?
Is there any questions? I see Mary Gay's hand up first. Mary Gay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Jim. So my question is to Lindsay. Lindsay, has there been at all any pushback from patrons about the shorter amount of time that you're asking them to be in the libraries?
Here and there, it's primarily people who are using the computers who, 2 years ago would have been used to spending all afternoon at a branch. Right now, our computer appointments are 30 minutes. They can be extended to an hour if no one is waiting. But once staff explain the reasoning, and generally people are okay with the rules. There's just, people would prefer to spend more time in our spaces for sure.
I understand that. Okay, thank you very much, Lindsay.
Is there any other questions? Warden Allison, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say to Lindsay that I'm looking forward to the new staff at the Dorchester branch. Chris has already reached out and I'm looking forward to talking to her. And, I can't say anything better than Laura Garner is a great choice for that. She really is a good person for that role. So great choice.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, it's very, very excited to have Laura in that position.
Okay, I don't see anybody else's hand up for any other comments on respect to that library activity report. So if not, we'll move on to 6F, which is early on programming update. Did you want to comment on this one, Lindsay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So like it says, this is a year in review that Nadine put together. So it really shows the number of changes that the early on service went through over the past year, shifting from just virtual programming, similar to what we are now, back in January 2021, through finally moving into some outdoor programming in the spring and summer and into the fall, and then adding in indoor in-person programming and seeing that transition. As well, Nadine highlights those outdoor play space projects that were really important to the work that we did in 2021. So the spaces in Ilderton and Thorndale, so well used, especially when we couldn't be indoors or people preferred to be outdoors. So that worked really well. And we're looking forward to using those spaces in the years to come. And as well that, that the Strathroy renovation project and all the work that we're doing in that space. Participation, when we could do indoor in-person programming, participation registration has been great. And it was really building across the county. So it feels like this is a little blip in that progression. And once we're able to get back to in-person programming, I know that the families definitely appreciate those opportunities. So looking forward to that. And like I said, we'll be setting that timeline likely over the next week or so about what that next phase looks like for early on.
Hey, is there any questions with that report from members? If not, we'll move to 6G, which is early years team 2021 update. That's a fairly detailed report with shows all your next steps. So you want to comment on that at all, Lindsay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is work that we've done with both Nadine and Shauna primarily. So Shauna, our child and youth librarian. So it really shows that connection between those two service areas, between early on programming and library programming, and how we're trying to coordinate things, work together, and approach opportunities together. So Shauna and Nadine brought our early years program and services action plan to you last year. And so this is a bit of an update and a recap of that work. So in 2022, as we look ahead, we have a number of goals and action items that we'll be coming back to you with regular updates. So things like our community connector project. So that's a project that's been building over the past few years. Building an information sharing platform, training library staff to be community connectors. The focus right now is on information that pertains to that 0 to 6 age group, so that early years age group, but it's also a platform that we'll be able to add to for basically all ages. So we'll be coming back with more information on that, and as well, it's included in the report here. Work on collection and resources. So the team did a big toys and materials review just before Christmas. It was partly motivated by the fact that we don't have a lot of materials out for kids to use right now. So it was a good opportunity to look at what we had, what we should have in our children's spaces, what are the best materials that we can keep clean and, that enhance the learning opportunities for children in our spaces. So we've done a lot of work on what's in every branch, from our basics all the way up to the comprehensive branches, and refreshing those materials and those kind of play spaces. So once we are able to welcome kids back to spend more time in our branches, they'll have new play experiences. So we're looking forward to that. We'll also be doing more work on our programs and services. One project specifically is that our baby and toddler book bag project. So that's that project, that literacy in the home project, where we receive funding through the Middlesex Supports program from social services. We're working on taking a library specific approach to this project. So getting those materials and kits into the hands of new moms for babies around the county. So we'll be coming back with more information over the next couple of months on that project. And yeah, so just to wrap up our next report, progress report, like it says in the report, we'll come back in June to give a recap. And this structure, creating this action plan for the different service groups or service areas in the library, that's one of our projects as we look at adult programming, as we look at technology programming, different aspects that came out of our library services review. We're going to put together this type of action plan for each of those service areas so that we can be more strategic, tying into our overall strategic plan. So you'll be seeing more reports like this over the next year.
Hey, is there any questions? It seems like the early on and early teams is taking up a big chunk of your time. So I think it's well directed, but I just think that was a good report. Yeah, I'm not going to ask any questions with respect to that report. Okay, If none, then I looked at, for a motion that items 6A to 6G be received for information. Moved by Ruth Ann. Seconded, please. Brad. Richards, any further comments or questions? I'm sorry, I said Ruth Ann. It's Ruth Adams. I'm sorry. I'm good friends of her, Ruth Ann, so it just came up automatically. But moved by Ruth Adams, seconded by Brad Richards. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much.
He's called me worse, Ruth. Don't worry.
A lot worse. Then we'll move to any inquiries. Are there any inquiries? Okay, so now we'll move to new business. I'm going to ask Bill here for a second. We got him here. Bill, did you want to make any comments with respect to the changes that might be made at within our organization with respect to the library?
Yeah, maybe we'll go in camera and I can just talk about that a little bit more freely, if that's okay with you, Chair.
Yeah. Well, let's cover off the new businesses. It gives us a list of the March meetings, March through to December. I got a question though. This board, the election this year is different. That they take over in November as opposed to December. The municipal election. Does that'll affect? That'll be a new members board on the 13th, right? I would look at. Does that seem right, Bill?
I missed your question because I was answering another question. Sorry.
Okay.
Lindsay, do you know the answer?
The warden might.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. Yeah, that you'll.
Yeah, no, I thought they changed it now that it's October, it's the election, and then November is the swearing in as opposed to December. So.
Yes, it would be, our inaugural's on December 8th, so it would be a new board.
Maybe. Some, anyhow, we'll see what happens with it, but elections are always fickle, so we'll move through that. So if there's no other new business, I will ask for a motion to go in camera to discuss a personnel matter, moved by Allison Warwick, Warden Warwick, and seconded by Mary Gay Wilkins. Further comments? All in favor?